What if I told you that the life you're so carefully building, the career ladder you're climbing, the social status you're curating, the very identity you present to the world, is like a magnificent sandcastle, destined to be washed away by the tide of time? What if the one single element that will define your entire existence is something you are likely overlooking in the frantic rush of your everyday life? I have lived for 80 years. That's over 29,000 sunrises. I've witnessed the birth of the digital age and the fading of empires. I've seen ideologies that promised utopia crumble into dust, and I have personally said a final goodbye to every single person I once believed I would grow old alongside. My parents, my siblings, my oldest friends, and the love of my life, they exist now only in the quiet library of my memory. When you reach this age, the world stops trying to sell you things. It has nothing left to offer you, no new promise of happiness in a bottle or a box. And in that profound, echoing silence, when all the noise of a lifetime finally recedes, you are left with one single, unshakable truth. It's a truth so hard in its simplicity and so profound in its implications that it took me nearly a century of living, loving, and losing to fully grasp it. And I feel an urgency to share it with you now, before the sand in your own hourglass runs out. This isn't a lecture. It's a map. A map that might save you from reaching the end of your road only to realize you were walking in the wrong direction all along. I remember my 50s with a vividness that surprises me. I was at the peak of my career, a king in a castle of my own making. My identity was welded to my professional achievements. My home was a fortress built with the bricks of my success, and my relationships were assets I managed with a careful, almost strategic hand. I recall a specific obsession, a first-edition book I had hunted for years. It sat on my shelf, a symbol of my persistence and taste. I guarded these treasures, the title, the house, the book, believing they were the very pillars of my existence. But time is the most patient of thieves. It doesn't smash the window, it simply waits for you to forget you left the door unlocked. Today, my professional legacy is a footnote in a corporate history no one reads. The homes I cherish now hold the laughter of other families. And that first edition book? It was sold in an estate sale for a fraction of what I paid, its symbolic value vanishing the moment my ownership ceased. The first, most brutal lesson of a long life is this: you own nothing. We are not owners, we are custodians. This applies not just to objects, but, most importantly, to people. The people you love are not yours to keep. They are magnificent, fleeting constellations you are granted the profound privilege to witness for a short, precious time. Thinking you can own another person, be it a spouse, a child, or a friend, is the surest path to suffering. It turns your relationships into a desperate act of clinging, of fearing the inevitable departure. But when you finally truly understand this, the entire dynamic shifts. The pain of loss, when it comes, transforms. It ceases to feel like a robbery and becomes a quiet, aching gratitude for the loan. The only thing that truly remains from a lifetime of gathering is the love you poured out, the kindness you offered, the patience you extended. That is the only currency that death cannot devalue and time cannot erode. This realization naturally ushers in the second great lesson, a quiet but radical rebellion against what I call the tyranny of the horizon. Most of us spend our lives on a frantic pilgrimage toward distant shimmering peaks, the wedding day, the big promotion, the dream vacation, the retirement party. We measure our days by these milestones, believing that happiness is a destination we will one day finally arrive at. But from the vantage point of 80 years, I can tell you with absolute certainty that life is not the view from the summit. It is the texture of the path beneath your feet. It is the million unspectacular, un-Instagrammable steps you took to get there. What remains at the end is not a highlight reel of your grandest achievements, but a rich, detailed mosaic of forgotten moments that, in retrospect, were the whole point. I remember a specific Wednesday evening. Nothing special happened. My wife was reading in her armchair, the light from the lamp catching the silver in her hair. My son was on the floor, painstakingly trying to build a tower of blocks that kept tumbling down, his face a mask of intense concentration. The smell of dinner lingered in the air. There was no grand event, no celebration. It was just life, and it was perfect. I was so busy thinking about a deadline at work that I almost missed it. We are so obsessed with productivity, with filling every second with purpose, that we fail to see that being is the purpose. If I could reclaim the time I've lost, I wouldn't seek more triumphs. I would seek more noticing. I would learn to find the sacred in the mundane, because that is where the soul of a life is truly hidden. But what happens when the noticing is all you have left? When the house falls permanently silent and the phone stops gathering dust because there is no one left to call? We are raised in a culture that is terrified of solitude. We are taught from birth to fill every empty moment with noise, with work, with entertainment, with distraction. We spend our entire lives running from the one person we can never, ever escape, ourselves. But age is a patient, relentless hunter. Eventually, your knees give out, your energy wanes, and you can no longer outrun the silence. You are forced to sit down and have a long, overdue conversation with the stranger you've ignored for a lifetime. For many, this is a terrifying prospect, a final reckoning. But if you have spent your life cultivating an inner world, this solitude becomes a sanctuary. In the quiet, I learned to make peace with the ghosts of my past selves. I learned to forgive the arrogant, insecure young man I was at 25, who thought he knew everything. I learned to have compassion for the anxious, striving man I was at 50, who was so afraid of failing. I discovered that my own company was not a punishment, but a privilege. What remains when the world outside grows quiet is the strength and richness of your internal fortress. You discover, with a sense of profound relief, that you were always enough. You were your own most loyal companion all along. You just had to get quiet enough to finally hear your own voice. And it is from this newfound fortress of self-acceptance that you can finally face the hardest, most important truth of all. People often ask me if I have regrets. Of course I do. To live a full life is to accumulate a museum of missteps and wrong turns. I regret the chances I didn't take, the adventures I postponed for a someday that never arrived. I regret the words of love and vulnerability that I swallowed out of a foolish sense of pride. But those are regrets, and with time, they fade like old photographs. What haunts you, what truly remains with a searing, undiminished pain, is remorse. And remorse is born from one thing and one thing only: the times you were not kind. We invest so much of our precious, finite energy in the desperate, exhausting need to be right. We wage wars in our living rooms over trivialities. We sever lifelong connections to protect our fragile egos, and we celebrate hollow victories in arguments that no one, especially not time, will remember. I can recall a specific argument with my brother over something so insignificant I can't even remember it now. But I remember the words I used. I remember choosing to be clever instead of compassionate. We didn't speak for almost a year after that. A year of silence for the sake of being right. As I look at the names crossed out in my old address book, I can tell you with an old man's certainty that being right is the loneliest prize in the world. Kindness was always the answer. It was the only answer that ever truly mattered. The one hard truth that 80 years have burned into the very marrow of my bones is that your legacy is not what you build or what you achieve. It is the warmth you left in the hearts of others. It is the moments you chose compassion over judgment, forgiveness over a grudge, and a gentle, healing word over a sharp, clever retort. Understanding this brings a strange and unexpected peace, a final, gentle liberation. I watch the world now, with its frantic energy, its new languages, its digital obsessions, and I no longer feel the bitterness of being left behind. I have graduated from being a player on the field to a spectator in the stands, and I've discovered the view from here is beautiful. My role is no longer to shape the world, but to witness it. To see the timeless patterns of human nature repeat, to see my father's stubborn determination in my grandson's eyes, to understand that I am but one single thread in an infinite, magnificent, and ongoing tapestry. There is an immense freedom in letting go of the need to be important. What remains is the pure, unburdened joy of seeing life renew itself, knowing that your small, brief story is now woven into the very fabric of what is to come. When you stop needing to be the center of the universe, you are finally free to truly appreciate its beauty. So what remains when the guests have all gone home and the music of your life has faded to a gentle hum? It's not emptiness. It's not a void. It's gratitude. A fierce, profound, heart-shattering gratitude for the sheer impossible miracle of it all. That you got to be here. That you got to feel the warmth of the sun on your skin, to taste rain on your tongue, to love even when it led to the unbearable pain of loss. that you were given the gift of nearly 30,000 sunrises. I am 80 years old, and I am no longer afraid of the dark, because I have finally understood that the light you create within yourself, the light of kindness and love, never truly goes out. It simply illuminates the path for those who follow. If you are listening to this, I beg you, do not wait until you are my age to search for what remains. Don't wait for loss to teach you this lesson. Look for it now. It is in the quiet, steady rhythm of the breath you just took. It is in the warmth of the hand you might be holding, or the hand you could reach out for. It is in the choice you will make in the next 5 minutes to be kind when it would be easier to be right. Thank you for sitting with me on this porch for a while. If this message found a home in your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to continue this journey with us, and leave a comment below. Tell me, what is one small, beautiful thing you have learned to cherish in your own life? I read every single one. They make the silence in this old house feel a little less lonely.